You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, fueled by Fleetway Market. Whether you're on the road to the tailgate or headed up to hunting camp, stop by Fleetway Market to fuel up the car and the cooler today.
Are you ready?
Now live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
Listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, live and local on WRKS and streaming worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. This is Blake Scott filling in for the incomparable Bo Bounce on a Football Friday. And remember, Football Fridays are brought to you by Fleetway Market. That's right, Fleetway Market with 22 locations in the metro area, including all the way down to Hattiesburg and Brookhaven. Fleetway Market can take care of you when you need to fuel up for game day. That's right, fuel up with Fleetway Market. They've got an incredible rewards card program. You sign up for a rewards card at Fleetway Market, you can get inexpensive drinks every day, 89-cent coffee and fountain drinks every day. There's rewards programs within that card program, and we want you to give it a try. Fleetway Market, they've got a location on Lakeland Drive over in Madison on 51, and of course, my hometown location in Gluckstadt. It's on the east side of the interstate. You take a right when you get off the interstate, and it's on the right. Fleetway Market, that's the home of the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt, where they are doing tailgate packages. Now, you have to have ordered them by Thursday every week, and we're going to give one away next week. I'm excited about that. But Fleetway Market and the Gluckstadt location that has the Market Cafe, fantastic lunch stop. If you're in a hurry, you're making sales calls, you're moving back and forth, you had to drop the kids off, and one forgot a shoe, and the other forgot their uniform, and the third one forgot their backpack, and you're scrambling all over the place. Fleetway Market, the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt, is a fantastic lunch option for you. The Out of Bounds Show, powered by Fleetway. Fuel up at Fleetway Market. This is Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're talking football on a Football Friday. Dogs off this week. Rebels hosting the Razorbacks. And I want to get into this NFL game sooner rather than later. The Cowboys and the Giants. Cowboys and Giants taking each other on in a big-time NFC East divisional matchup. Giants coming off a huge upset win on the road against New Orleans. A tough place to win. First home game for New Orleans this year because of Hurricane Ida. And the Giants absolutely stole the manhood of Sean Payton, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, and the rest of the black and gold to pick up their first W. Now, see if they can ride the momentum of Daniel Jones, who's playing incredibly well, according to Pro Football Focus. Daniel Jones playing extremely well. He'll take on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, one of the high-flying offenses in the league through 4 weeks. All right, I want to jump into this topic. I want you to give me your thoughts. 601-885-3776, the Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line. 601-885-3776. I briefly said before we went to Dave Bartu, briefly talked about the anxiety felt by Mississippi State fans when it comes to throwing the football. Okay, State fans are sitting here going, wait, we've run the ball for 100 years. We're afraid of this. We're afraid of this. It doesn't look right. We look at our offense isn't doing what it needs to do. Well, that's a little misnomer. Your offense is the 27th rated offense when it comes to relative offensive efficiency. Okay, Ole Miss is 28, right? So you're not you are not far off from what you need to be. It may look like that at times, but you're really not as poorly operating as it may feel like at times, okay? And it also is a misnomer that you need to run the football to be able to throw the football, okay? It's been dispelled by analytics. We know that you can throw the ball without running it. Steve Palazzo has told us. We've had other guys come on here and told us. Now, Tom Lukenbill has sworn by the idea that you have to run the football in the SEC, okay? You have to. He keeps saying, you got to run the football if you're Mike Leach. You got to be able to run the football. Well, It's an interesting debate. So first, I want to get your thoughts. 601-885-3776. The Mississippi Ag John Deere Tractor text line, agup.com. Visit agup.com to find a retail location near you. Does Mississippi State have to run the ball better? Yes or no? And what is better, right? What is that imaginary threshold line that we say, if we run the ball X well, so to speak, we will have success? What does that mean? What is that balance? So I want to drop some audio here. Okay. Brandon Staley is the head football coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. The LA Chargers are up and coming. They've got a great young quarterback in Justin Herbert. They've looked like an explosive offense. They have beaten some good teams so far through 4 weeks of the season, going into week 5. Okay. They lost to the Dallas Cowboys in what was a little bit of a slugfest, kind of little lower scoring game. Okay. Brandon Staley dropped some knowledge on what the passing game and the run game mean to each other, and why there's truth in the analytics approach and there's truth in the idea that there is some need for a run game.
What I think that the running game does for a quarterback is it gives you some breathers. And, you don't need a good running game to be a good play-action team, but what you need the running game for is the physical element of the game. There's a physicality to the game that's real, right? If you're just a passing team, okay, there's a physical element to the game that the defense doesn't have to respect, okay? And that's the truth, okay? Because the data will tell you don't need a run game to play pass. You don't need that. But what the running game does for you, it brings a physical dimension to the football game. And what the running game does that the passing game does not is the running game forces the defense to play blocks and to tackle. That happens on a run play. You must play blocks and you must tackle. In the passing game, those things don't have to happen, right? You don't have to play as many blocks, right? And you may not have to tackle based on incomplete or not. So what the running game does is it really challenges your physicality. And that's why I think the run game is important to a quarterback, is because it's going to allow him literally to have more space to operate when you do throw the football. Okay, it's not that you need the run game to throw it. It's just what it gives the rest of your skill players.
You don't need the run game to throw it. You don't. He's right. What you need is the mentality in your offensive line and the mentality in your team of, if we're going to run it, we're going to run it well, but we don't have to run it, and we can still be successful with what else we do. Mike Leach, in 2 seasons with a undermanned team, starting 2 different quarterbacks, rebuilding a roster that was decimated, a roster that signed the least amount of people over the last 4 seasons in the SEC. Mike Leach has beaten LSU on the road. He's beaten A&M on the road, and he's beaten NC State at home. And that NC State defense is top 10 in defensive efficiency through 6 weeks of the season. You have as many road wins against top 25 opponents in the last 2 seasons as you do outside those 2 seasons in the last 20 years. Okay? You remember that funny Michael Jordan quote where he said the ceiling is the floor? He got all like weird on the mic at the Charlotte Hornets game, and he said the ceiling is the floor. Okay. Joe Moorhead and the run game offenses of past, their ceiling is Mike Leach's floor. Do you understand that? Mike Leach's offense raises your ceiling. A passing offense raises your ceiling. Don't get lost in the nonsense. They don't have to. Do you want to run for a few more yards a game? Sure. But they don't have to run the ball some inordinate amount of time to be successful in the SEC. They don't. They don't. You just have to keep the defense honest. That's it. Don't have to run it successfully all the time. Don't have to run it a lot. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. This is the Out of Bounds Show, live and local, brought to you by Mississippi Smart Homes. Love to tell you about the new partner we have in mssmarthomes.com. They will change your life. They'll automate your house from security to entertainment centers to lighting. MSSmartHomes.com. Lee Sterling next.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by the Premium Cigars at Havana Smoke Shop. Visit their 2 locations, I-55 in Jackson and on the Res, for your premium cigar needs. Only at Havana Smoke Shop.
Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Streaming live and local on WRKS. And, of course, nationwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. Excited to have handicapper to the gods, Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com, joining us on the Modelo guest line. And Lee is locked and loaded for a fun Week 6 in the SEC. And we're going to start with, of course, our new style. We're going to start with the wrong team favored. Lee, good morning. Who's the wrong team favored this week?
Wrong team favorite this week is going to be in the Kentucky LSU game. And, hey, give Kentucky credit, but if you watch that game, the Florida game plan, I mean, on offense was terrible. I mean, it was like, we've heard about teams sleepwalking a week after a tough game. It's been 2 weeks. So they had no excuse here. And felt Kentucky, played well, but they're also still limited a little throwing the football. Last time Kentucky was favored over LSU all the way back in 1999. That was the DiNardo era. And I think LSU's mentality off a loss much better. They also play much better on the road. Doesn't make sense, but they're 14-3 against the spread on the road as of the last couple of years. And Kentucky, they're now the hunted, not the hunter, where they do much better. Wrong team favored. LSU 23-20.
All right, Lee Sterling going ahead and giving Ed Orgeron another week of existence on the Bayou on the Modelo.
I want him to win because if he loses and he gets fired, then the coaches that Miami's picking from once we get rid of Manny Diaz probably be in the same pool, right?
Smart man. Lee's thinking. Hey, that's progressive.
Whoever thought Billy Napier might be the most popular guy in about a month.
That you're not. We have said that before. Napier may have bided his time. We thought it may have been too long, but hey, things that come around come back around.
Watch if you think he's there yet. Watch their game against Texas. They didn't compete in that game, so let's see what he does on Tuesday night. It's a big game against App State. So
yeah, absolutely.
Everyone needs to watch that game. We don't have to watch Maction on Tuesday and Wednesday. We actually get a real football game.
There you go. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. Check out what they're doing at ParamountSports.com. Making money over there with Lee Sterling, handicapper to the gods. Lee, what is going on at ParamountSports.com this week?
Well, Locktober continues. Not October here. It's Locktober. 4 weeks, just $297. If you're not already with us, let's say you're with us for football and you're making money there. Add on baseball. I mean, we've had a 4-month run. We're number one in the world in football over the last year. But baseball, for instance, like it covers. I saw my picks. There are 37 handicappers. We're number 3 right now. So
wow.
Last 4 months have been incredible. You can get the entire playoffs, $97. So that's probably 1 bet, 2 bets at the most. So you make your money in a day or two. The rest is profit. I'm making it real inexpensive because I know if someone joins me there and they make money, they're going to be happy and they're going to want to buy some of my other services. So $97 for baseball, and the baseball playoffs have been great so far. Always have the USC FCs up every single Saturday. And then hockey. Last year we were number 1 in the world in hockey. The average bettor who bets between 100 and 500 made over $22,000 in hockey. I know a lot of people aren't into it, but pays the exact same. We got the season up for sale there, and basketball starts. Hockey starts Tuesday, following Tuesday basketball. Everything's up and available. ParamountSports.com. And also, let's say there's another game you want to see me break down and predict. There's some really good games going on around the country, like Iowa and Penn State, Michigan and Nebraska. Left and right. You want to check out those games. Also, Oklahoma, Texas. I got free pick videos at the website you can watch. About 2 to 3 minute videos, ParamountSports.com.
Boom. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. They're rocking and rolling in Locktober. And when you win that much money, it becomes Rocktober, baby. That's what it's all about. I love how you said that, too, about NHL. It pays the same. It's like going to work. I don't have to like it if it pays well enough.
Yeah, and people love to watch and bet the Monday night and Thursday night games. And 60, 70% of the time we've got something on the game or the total. But there's something about watching like a hockey game, when you got a big play on it and you win that game like 5-1. That's easy. By the second period, you can go to bed. So I have a guy named Jack. You ready? I don't think I told you about this. So here's the story. So I stopped doing hockey and baseball a few years back. It just took so much time, and it was only probably 10% of my income each. So I figured, hey, I'll just spend the summers and go to a lot of spring games and watch tapes of games from the year. So turns out my daughter's boyfriend in law school sitting next to a guy, friend of his, and wasn't paying attention. All he does is handicap hockey and baseball.
Wow.
And his name, get this, not James Bond, Jack Bond.
There you go.
What a name. So this guy's like a savant. Wouldn't even pay attention in class, get straight A's. He loves it. And so I monitored his plays for a year. And so he and I together do baseball and hockey. So it's been a great partnership.
Boom. There you go. Yep. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com, ready to roll for the playoffs. Lee, let's jump to the blowout special. Who's featured in the blowout special this week?
Yeah, so we're going to go with the Georgia Bulldogs here. Auburn is going to have to face the best defense in the land. It's not even close. They're giving up just 23 points the entire year, not in one game, the entire year, allowing just 2.3 yards per carry running, 4.7 yards per pass attempt, and Bo Nix is not going to be able to freelance against this defense here. They lost 27-6 last year. It'll be even worse this year, 34-7. Georgia big.
Oh, goodness. It's like making the steel curtain look weak here. Goodness gracious.
Similar, pretty similar.
Oh, man. Georgia and Auburn, the blowout special of the week. You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Lee Sterling on the Modelo guest line, showing you the best plays of the week. You can check out the rest of his stuff at ParamountSports.com. All right, Lee, lock of the week. It's not surprising to me. I see it in front of me. I told Bo when we talked about this yesterday, it should be the lock of the century. Alabama and Texas A&M. Let me know what you got.
Yeah, so Texas A&M's offensive line, we talked about this, lost 4 or 5 starters. And if Zach Alzada had the line from last year, they lose by a couple touchdowns, maybe 10, 14 points. But that offensive line's terrible. Alzada's holding on to the ball too long. Nick Saban has now won 24 straight times against assistants here after throttling the lane train. I don't blame the lane train. I mean, he's trying to win. He went for it in 4th down. Bama's Bryce Young might win the Heisman by default. Number 2 is Matt Corral, and he doesn't have much of a chance here, so it's going to be pretty over pretty soon here. And just think that this A&M's defense isn't good enough. They're not Georgia elite to keep it close, so another Saban assistant goes down. That's 25 if you're counting. Down goes Jimbo. Roll Tide, 45-14.
Roll Tide, Paul. Lee Sterling on the Modelo guest line, picking the games of the week. Like you said, wrong team favored, Kentucky LSU. The blowout special, look for Georgia to roll on Auburn. And, of course, the lock of the century, it feels like, could be Alabama over whoever they're playing. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. Lee, is there anything else we need to be watching out for this weekend from you guys at Paramount Sports?
Another game is going to be Ole Miss. Ole Miss is laying 6.5 pop. A couple people are saying, well, that might be a lot here. Arkansas has played some other teams close, but they beat Texas and they beat A&M. I think when A&M obviously was – had no offense in Texas, I think that they were just shocked. I think they weren't prepared for the game, didn't bring their A game. So I like Ole Miss here. He'll play to win this game and doesn't have to go for it every 4th down here. I think when we look back at the end of the year, we're going to say Ole Miss beat the teams that were similar to and better than, just couldn't beat the elite teams, the Georgias and the Alabamas here. I like Ole Miss here, 37-30.
There you go. Rebels getting a dub in Lee Sterling's eyes. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com on the Modelo guest line, always bringing the heat every Friday at 8:15, one of my favorite segments of the week because it makes you money, and it's all about making that paper. Lee, I appreciate it. Look forward to it next week, and looking forward to a great weekend of football.
You too, Blake. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, sir. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. Check out what they've got going on. Locktober, ParamountSports.com. $97 can get you in on some baseball, some hockey. Get your feet wet. Get ready to go for the weekend. They are killing it at ParamountSports.com. And, of course, it's all documented, so you can go do your own research. You don't have to believe me. You can go check it out for yourself. Read it and weep if you want to take home that paper. Lee Sterling, ParamountSports.com. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Mike Detillier on the Modelo guest line, break down LSU Kentucky, what's going wrong with the Saints, and, of course, anything else you need to know down on the Bayou. And we're going to hear from Mike Leach coming up at 9 o'clock. Stay tuned. Mississippi State head coach Mike Leach on the Modelo guest line at 9 o'clock. Out of bounds, hour 3 coming up.
You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show podcast, presented by Independent Roofing Systems. If you want it done right the first time, visit Independent Roofing Systems today.
Is this thing working? Give me some sound over here. Yeah. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by the award-winning golf courses at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
All right. Good morning. Welcome in. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Soundcom. Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. And they can put your AV system, audiovisual equipment, design and install, in your church, business, or sports facility. SoundcomAV.com. Sound and Communications. We welcome in Mike Detillier on the Modelo guest line, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike, before I get to the Saints, I want to start with LSU. A little bit of a wild game there in Death Valley on Saturday night. And Bo Nix made some crazy plays and so on. What was your one big takeaway from the Auburn-LSU game this past weekend?
No, LSU had their game in hand and let it slip away. They didn't put them all, just didn't put it away. The lack of a running game is a big part of that. That's a football game at the end of the season. You're going to look back and say, how the hell we lost this? Because, you had the game in hand, and you let it slip away. Bo Nix really played one heck of a game. And I give him full credit that he was under duress. And after what happened the week before, that's a lot of mental toughness for him to play that sort of game. Because he knew this was sort of the last lifeline for him with the coach before he would hand it off to TJ. And he made a couple of plays that you just shook your head about, because LSU had him cornered, and he came out of there running around and made a couple of really huge throws. So, for LSU fans, it's frustration that, again, this football team is having difficulties getting the plays in on time, running the football, and at the end of the game, their defense is gassed. They're great with the big plays, but again, you live by that, you die by that. And Ed now understands the seat has gotten much hotter for him.
Wow. And you go to Kentucky, Mike, this weekend, and I know you and I throughout most of our life, Kentucky hadn't been any good in football, but Mark Stoops, slowly but surely, has made them even more than respectable, but definitely he's upgraded. They're not where they want to be skill position-wise, but line of scrimmage-wise, goodness. And on the defensive side of the football, they're nasty. So, this game is in Lexington. Now, they're coming off the high beating Florida. They're going to have to get refocused. We see week to week you get a different deal from 18 to 22-year-olds. But don't you this is a big game for Orgeron and LSU, don't you think, Mike?
You better believe it. Next 2 weeks are huge for him. In playing Kentucky and playing Florida. Kentucky's a football team that, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I thought they'd have difficulties with. You write about the roller coaster, because they had some weird games losing to Florida. Really weird. And end up winning that football game. And you write about, teenagers, young 20-year-olds, there is an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes you get a little bit full of yourself. And so for LSU, they got to win this football game. They have to win it. And so on the road against a tough football team that's not dynamic offensively, but they're strong in the trenches. Kentucky ain't giving up much in the running game, but LSU can't run it to begin with. So, they just nothing is seemingly connecting here for LSU. And despite in spurts them playing very well on both sides of the ball, it's not been a complete game all season long.
Mike,
does it happen? Who knows?
Right.
But Ed and I had this conversation back in the summer. He gave a speech to mostly high school coaches, but there were college coaches there too, about, you guys are going to find out, and quickly, you judge not from year to year, but game to game. And you playing for your life every game.
True.
In the SEC.
This day and age.
And so he kind of foresaw this, that, hey, I get it. And, here's the crazy thing, that when you look back at kind of a perception reality issue and how, things are just sort of weird, at the same time, Ed Orgeron and Nick Saban have the same record at LSU. They're 48 wins, 16 losses.
Yeah. Well, that 15-0, that 15-0 season. Yeah.
And Nick won a national championship too. And so at the same moment in time, it's 48-16. And yet the look at this program is totally different. That with Nick, the trajectory was up. And with Ed, the trajectory is down.
Yeah, I know he's your good friend. I don't think he's going to make it, Mike. But I look at these next three games, and I think you're right. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, on the Modelo guest line. He's an LSU Saints insider, among other things. At Kentucky, Florida at home. I know they didn't look good last weekend, but still. And at Ole Miss. I mean, Mike, they could go 0-3 or 1-2 during that stretch, go and get to the bye week. And at that point, things could be getting real hot and maybe in somewhat panic mode down in Baton Rouge. Your thoughts?
Well, with Woodward running it, I don't think you're going to see that panic stuff. It might be panic from fans and panic from people media-wise, but, Scott's going to let this kind of roll out. And I've heard this many times that, well, Scott didn't hire him. And that's true. He didn't hire him, but he did give him the big contract after the national championship year. So his fingerprints on that too. But, the one thing in knowing with Scott, and I think even for the baseball coach search, where there were some people in athletic departments and maybe former players, money people, that sort of tried to do a little coup. They wanted their own guy, okay? And they thought Scott wasn't working fast enough and thought maybe he had made a bad decision with, the Oregon State coach and sort of going up to him to see about coming back and coach again. That Scott sort of put the clamp on that. Now, that isn't reported, and, certain reporters, well, I got great insights. Their insights are marginal. Scott Woodward runs this athletic department, and when he found out about it, he slammed the window on that. And so this is going to be Scott's call, and I would be surprised if Scott made a change mid-season or during the year, but I think that Ed's got to get to 8 wins some kind of way for him to survive. And that's going to be really difficult.
Yikes.
Really difficult. Because I think anything less, you're going to have a major uprise here from people who donate, from fans, that sort of thing. So, it is what it is, and he understands it more than anybody. He grew up here, okay? He knows the pressures that happen to be a head coach at LSU. And Pete Jenkins told me this, I think probably 2 days after the national championship game. He said, Ed better soak it in because this is the best it'll be.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I'm just telling you. He said, now he put that bar where 9 wins, people are going to say that's not a successful season. 8 wins, that's not a successful season. And so he said, I'm just telling you, you better soak it in because unless you fix it on winning 10, 11, 12 games every year, and he said there's only one guy that has walked out of doing that, and that's Saban, it's going to be real difficult. And Pete kind of looked into the future in that crystal ball, and he is absolutely 100% right. And so the people that are clamoring for Ed, and I get it, it's frustration, but the same fans and talk show people, who were they for a few years back? Tom Herman? Where's Tom today?
Right.
Or where's Jimbo Fisher, their boy? And listen, and I'm pals with Jimbo. What's happened with him? Are A&M fans thrilled with Jimbo today? So it goes to show you both the pressures, and it is a what have you done for me today business. I don't want to hear about what happened last year. The A&M had one of the greatest seasons in football last year, and you wouldn't know it if you talk to Aggie fans today. Man, they don't want to hear about that. Their deal is, well, what happened? What's going on this year? With the potential that this team could lose 2 or 3 more games and be almost in the same shape LSU's in.
Look, I'm with you. LSU and A&M are in a bad spot. 2 elite recruiters that are not playing like they have.
It done.
Yeah. Mike Detillier.
What's happening in Florida with Dan Mullen? You don't think the heat's on him?
I do. I will say this. Out of those 3, I have more confidence in Dan getting it right and getting back on track than I do for Jimbo or Orgeron. Could be wrong, but you're right. I mean, you can't go to when you're the Florida coach, you can't go to Kentucky and lose. It's just doesn't matter if Stoops has a nice team or one of his better teams or not. You can't do that. Out of Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, Mike joins us on the Modelo guest line. The show is brought to you by Sound and Communication, soundcomav.com. Mike, who do you like better right now at this point in the season as the better team, Bama or Georgia?
I like Alabama because of the quarterbacking situation.
I like that.
I just think that with Bryce, he kind of tilts the field. With Georgia, tell me who's going to be the quarterback. If JT can come back healthy, it's real tight, and their defense is just spectacular. And they can run the football, and they got playmakers out on the edge, but they need JT to be that complete team. So I would. That's not even a thought on that. That's easy. Alabama because of Bryce at quarterback position. He's certainly a difference maker and a guy that he makes it all roll. And does he play like a guy that's seen very little playing time? The answer is no. He looks like a seasoned vet to me, and he's done a really good job with a new set of receivers, with a rebuilt offensive line. Now, Brian Robinson was impressive this week, but, they had Najee, and he sort of was another one of those signature players for Bama. So, man, right now it's Bama.
Yeah. Who do you have take the league as a whole? So you got Bama and then Georgia. Who do you have as the third best team?
That would be difficult for a decision on that one. I thought going into the year it would be A&M, but they've not shown me any of that at this point, to be honest with you. And it's a flip of the coin between all of them. All of them are a work in progress to be the 3 team at this stage. Arkansas got a little reality check with them, and they're still a tough football team.
Sure.
But man, again, when you look across the board, they're not going to, I'm wondering how well or how they kind of bounce back. If they would bounce back, then I think they would be the 3 team. But it's sometimes teams have their own way of evolving during the year, to be honest with you.
True.
They have their own little evolvement. And I can say the same thing about Ole Miss. Well, what's going to happen there after really getting popped of how you evolve from that? Because either you're going to get better or you're going to get worse. It's going to be one of the two with both those teams. And I can say that about A&M and LSU and Florida. It's not going to be this even keel this year for any of the rest. None of the rest. It's you're going to be going through the roller coaster. It's a really weird year in the SEC when you look at it as a whole, because it's so clear cut between Alabama and Georgia. Bo, if you think back, there was always that third and maybe even a 3B team that was sort of lurking. Not after last week.
Yeah. Well,
you think about it, it's been a long time since, and I know they've sort of met, in the crucial game before, but there's always been a team sort of in the lurking in the woods that could have a shot at it. This year, tell me who's really going to give Alabama and Georgia a really tight football game? Unless they play bad.
Right.
Now, you never know, and turnovers are a great equalizer in this business, but you sort of saw this weekend where the line in the sand was drawn, and those maybe teams, they ain't maybe no more. And what's going to happen to them? It's a very interesting year, the way it has played out, because in years past, there's always been that 3-team or 3B team that you could say, they got a shot if they play well. But, A&M hasn't played well. LSU hasn't played well. Florida hasn't played well. Arkansas played well up until, they caught the buzzsaw. Ole Miss has played well, and then they got Alabama. Mississippi State, they caught, they gave it to A&M, really did. You look across the board, that's not a lot of that. Auburn, come on, they're a middle-of-the-road team at this stage. So there isn't that 3B team. Now, could that emerge in a couple weeks? We'll see. But right now, there's a lot more question marks about teams than the real answers.
Yeah. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, on the Modelo guest line. All right, Mike, well, let's go to the Saints. Not that that's any more fun than LSU, but I understand the NFL is set up to where damn near anything can happen week to week, but I'm still surprised the Giants go in the Dome and beat, Sean Payton and the Saints. What did you make of the game?
I saw the same game twice. I watched LSU Auburn, and I've seen, the Saints Giants. It was like watching the same game twice. You had them, and you let it slip away. You had a big lead in the fourth quarter, and it just slipped away from you. And it was one of the poorer coaching efforts by Sean Payton. And he admitted that after the game. Okay, 3 times you get inside the Giants' 50-yard line, and you come away with 0 points. And you're giving Rosas, who's been as inconsistent as could be, you let him kick a 58-yard field goal, which, he misses. And then, bang, the Giants hit a big play. The Saints, it goes to show how rookies are. Paulson Adebo, he never covered nobody like John Ross, that speed. Okay, so he gives up the big play, and he turns around almost disgusted with himself, not realizing Ross fumbled the ball in the end zone. Go get the ball.
I saw that, yeah.
You like, hey, this isn't high school football. Go pick it up. But the Saints got no pass rush on the Giants. That shocked me because I've watched the Giants play the first 3 games, and there was a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, their O-line's been terrible for 5 years.
And they gave him a lot of time to throw the football. Saints could not get pressure on him, and he's mobile. And I think Daniel, I don't know what the talk show people in New York are doing today or yesterday, but they're not complaining about Daniel Jones. Well, they shouldn't, because, man, he was throwing darts out there. And they got some speed elements that, if used wisely, they are very good with it, because Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Ross, Ingram, and Saquon Barkley look mighty healthy to me. Now, again, I'm not going to say this often about the Giants, but they outfoxed the football team, coaching-wise, Sunday, because I have no real confidence in Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator.
No.
But, man, I thought he called one heck of a game, because he had the Saints on their heels. They had no idea what was going on.
I think his job was on the line, Mike. Garrett.
Well, I think the same thing with Joe Judge, and you can question that part too. Now, defensively, I thought they did a decent job overall, but my goodness, I thought Garrett's play calling up against Dennis Allen was really good. And when they tried to blitz him, man, Daniel was calm in the pocket, dumped the pass off, found the open receivers. But I was shocked with the offensive line play, which had been a disaster all year long. And the Saints had really been good at getting pressure on the quarterback, and they could get 0 on Jones. He got 6 hurries, but that, no sacks. He didn't come close to getting sacked in that game. And it was a really weird game from an NFL standpoint, because once you saw the Saints jump to that lead, you were like, man, there's no way the Giants are coming back from this. This team is inventing new ways to lose. And all of a sudden, they packed it in and got the score. So you're right. You never know in this league the mentality of players. The Giants came to play Sunday. They weren't intimidated by the Saints, despite the fact they knew they were going to get an earful from the crowd.
Mike Detillier, the man, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, Mo.
Oh, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications. It's also brought to you by Fleetway Market. Tailgate Catering Packages serves 4 to 6 people. Pulled pork pack, brisket or ribs pack. Must order by Thursdays. The number is 502-345-6131. The pickup is at the Gluckstadt location. Tailgate Catering Packages at Fleetway Market in Gluckstadt.